Hello, students. Bonjour, hola, ohayo, konnichiwa, whatever language you're learning to speak. I normally spend the first week of class just getting you used to how your brain is going to feel learning language. Okay? If you do the things I say, you will spend less time studying and you'll get fluent quicker. Okay? So let me explain why I do things the weird way that I do. This is all brain science here. The very first thing you need to know when you're learning another language, what's the most important thing you can think of? Oh, if I had you in a class, we'd all be shouting out crazy stuff and it'd be great. What do you think is the most important thing when you're learning another language? Very first thing you need to know is that repetition is the key to success. You are going to have to look at things more than once. It's not going to immediately pop into your brain. You're going to have to look at it. You're going to have to say it aloud. You're going to have to look at it some more. You're going to have to say it aloud some more. You're going to have to hear it. You're going to have to look at it again. You're going to have to say it aloud again. You're going to have to hear it again. Okay? That's the only way to learn language. What do you think is the second most important thing when learning a language? The second most important thing is that repetition is the key to success. You're going to have to repeat things. You're going to have to hear it again. You're going to have to say it again. And what do you think is the third most important thing? Yes, that's right. Repetition is the key to success. Now, I try to make it as painless as possible. Okay, I've got a lot of easy tricks for you. I love to play games. I'm trying to reimagine all my games right now online. It's going to be fun and painless, but you do need to look at things more than once. It's going to take you longer than one time to understand things. All right, this is all foreign. That's why we call it a foreign language, right? Okay, very first thing you need to know about how your brain works is that I'm going to tell you something. And if you were in the physical classroom, you'd leave the physical classroom, or you're going to watch the video that I make for you, or you're going to be in our online class, and then we're going to be done with class, and you're going to forget 80% of whatever you were just working with. Whatever I just told you, whatever you just said, and all the skills you worked on, you're going to forget 80% of it almost immediately. Why? Yeah, this is a difference between long-term and short-term memory. All right, so we need to get things into your long-term memory in a really painless way. So, turns out if you look at things one time within 24 hours after learning them, then you remember it. Okay, so you can expect from me 5 minutes of homework a night. Now, we're going to be allotted some time by the school every day, and if they haven't come back with how much that is, but let's say that they allot for us an hour a day, all right, which would be a normal school day. I don't need an hour a day with you, all right? I probably need 45 minutes a day with you because I'm going to teach you all these sneaky ways, maybe even a half an hour. But I've got fun things I want to do with you, okay? You've got that time, but then later on in the day, all right, as homework, quote unquote, before dinner, after dinner, somewhere in the night, after you've studied in the morning, or if you're a night person, you've studied at night, and then in the morning, I want 5 minutes on something. My homework is going to be silly things. It's going to be look at this again. It's going to be fill in these blanks. It's going to be sing this song once. It's going to be say this phrase once, okay? It's just one time, less than 5 minutes to get you to remember what you had just worked on because you worked hard on it, okay? Trust me on this. Don't try to blitz 200 minutes in one night. You won't remember anything. I want 5 minutes a night, okay? All right, now, the next thing I'm going to teach you is how to make weird connections. This is short-circuiting the brain. I'm getting you to fire those neurons between things. Let me give you some examples of weird connections, all right? One is Roy G. Biv, mnemonics, all right, where you memorize red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, okay? Or if you're a musician, you remember every good boy does fine always. Or face, to remember the lines and spaces. Or we've got things to remember the order of sharps and flats, okay? Here's a different kind of connection you can make. This is a very visual connection, and our brain loves to glomp onto visual things. Here's a guy who wanted to remember that Tallahassee was the capital of Florida. And he's like, I can't remember Tallahassee. That's a weird word. So he decided Tallahassee sounded like television. And so whenever he thinks of television that'll make the connection to Tallahassee, and he decided that Florida sounded like flower or flower pot. So he imagines a flower pot on top of a television, or maybe a flower on TV like this. And that's how he remembers that Tallahassee is the capital of Florida. So I'm going to teach you how to make weird connections to trick yourself into remembering stuff. Okay, it helps your brain store things if you can make those connections between them. So normally at this point, I show you a video during class, but I think what I'm going to ask you to do is stop this video, pause, and watch it, and then come back to this video. Okay, let me set you up here. I'm going to show you one of the recent world memory champs. He was memory champ 3 years ago. Okay, this guy. And the writing's in Chinese, so you won't be able to read it probably. But basically it says he's going to memorize 100 numbers within a certain time frame. Now the 100 numbers he's memorizing are 5-digit numbers, and they're just unrelated to each other, okay? The video is going to get really dramatic, of course. They're going to show him, I'll tell you what, pause this and go watch the video and come back here, okay? I will wait for you. Okay, are you back now? All right. So the video got dramatic. Right as he sees all the numbers and everything, and then he pauses. He takes his pen and he holds it up to his face like this, and he thinks for a second, and then he starts writing. And then there's another point in the middle of the video where they pretend like he's about to forget. He puts it up and he stops for a second, and then he has to think again, and then he starts writing, and he's got it all, and the music gets all long, you know, like triumphant and everything. So, you know, that was dramatized. So what's going on in his head during those times? Well, what's happening is he's made up a story for every single number. So whenever he sees a 0, he thinks of a balloon. And whenever he sees a number 2, he thinks of a swan, because their neck is kind of like that, right? I think I may be backwards in my video. So if he sees 0, 2 together, he thinks about a swan holding a balloon in his beak. And if he sees 2, 0, he thinks about the swan standing on top of the balloon. And he's made up this crazy story. So all he's doing every single time he pauses is, yeah, okay, I remember what happened in my story at that point. All right, so those are weird connections. I'm going to teach you tricks like that, okay? The next video I want you to watch, this is a woman who prepares people for the AP exam and for the SAT exam, the English AP and the English SAT exam, all right? She's just trying to get people to remember all those weird words like effervescent is to ebullient, all right? So she talks a lot about the weird connections that you have to make. She's got a throwaway story about Josh Foyer. Ask me about that sometime. It's a good story. He was one of the world memory champs. Oh, I'll tell you right now because it's a good story. She says he accidentally became world memory champion. He did not accidentally become world memory champion. What happened was he was a reporter and he had just finished this very hard-hitting expose piece about corruption. He had exposed this business for their bad business deals, and justice had been served thanks to his hard-hitting story. And he was like, whew, okay, I need a break now. What's my next story going to be? Hey, I noticed there's World Memory Champions coming to town for their annual World Memory Championship. I'm just going to go and interview them, and it's going to be a fun fluff piece. Now, the World Memory Champs, they are not competitive with each other. They're actually like all buddies. They compete within themselves. They're like always trying to make themselves better. So they're more than happy to tell you all the tricks that they use to become World Memory Champions. So he's interviewing them, and they're telling him lots and lots of good stories about they do this, make these weird connections, and look for this, which I'm going to teach you. Okay? And so he writes a story, and it's a good story. But he says, you know what? I think, just for funsies, I'm going to try their methods, and then I'm going to come back next year and I'll compete, and then I can write the companion piece that's me competing just to see what the other side is like. So he spent 20 minutes a night. I'm asking you for 5. He spent 20 minutes a night practicing all the techniques they taught him. And he won the next year. So it wasn't an accident. It was hard work because he spent 20 minutes a night. But hey, 20 minutes a night, that's not too much. And you can do it. You can learn another language in 5 minutes a night if you listen to me. Okay, so we've got our class during the day plus our 5 minutes. Okay. Next thing is I'm going to show you how to look for patterns. Do you want to memorize every single little detail in the language? No, of course you don't. If I teach you to look for the patterns, then you memorize the pattern and you don't have to memorize the little details. All right, next thing, this is a really challenging thing. You guys are isolated in your homes, so I don't know how this is going to play out this year, but let me tell you a story about myself first and tell you what this is a crucial piece of the puzzle for how we learn languages, okay? Here's me in Japan. It was a very, very, very rainy day, and my friends and I, she's from Hong Kong, we had traveled 50 minutes by train to go to this really beautiful park where the plum blossoms were blooming. And it's a very, very, very rainy day. We got our umbrella here. The ground is so muddy, we don't even want to pose on the ground, okay? And, you know, we've traveled a long way to get here, so we're going to go look around and even though it's kind of a miserable day, but it was a really gorgeous place. All right, here's me on a very slippery bridge. Beautiful little plum blossoms everywhere. Okay, this is one I could walk really well. Then I saw down the path, very steep path. There were some gorgeous plum trees in bloom, but it was really, really muddy down this steep path, and I was like, nah, no, I'm not gonna do it. And granted, I could walk really well then. This is before I was paralyzed. Nah, I'm not going to go down there. But then I thought, you know, it was a 50-minute train ride to get here. And when is the next time I'm going to be here? And the plums only bloom one time a year. So YOLO, this before YOLO, I practically invented that term. Okay, I went down the steep path and I fell on my keister. The very first thing I said when I got up, I had this epiphany. And I told my friends, take a picture of me. Now, I knew I had a 50-minute train ride going home, and that on that train ride, everyone was going to be staring at me and my dirty posterior. Okay, everyone was going to be staring at me. But I realized at that moment that I no longer get embarrassed. Nothing embarrasses me. And it turns out this is absolutely crucial for learning language. I am going to be teaching you how to say weird sounds. Air, arre, yad yudio. And you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to say this aloud. I'm going to sound really stupid when I say this aloud. And you're going to be like, I don't remember how to say this. I'm going to sound like an idiot. And you're going to be so afraid that you'll shut down before even trying. We need to get over that. We need to get you out of your own way. You cannot be embarrassed. Even businessmen know that you have to make mistakes and try again. That's how you learn. Okay, so in class, I will not allow anyone to insult anyone else. We all have to be building each other up and helping each other, okay? It's going to happen. You're going to stick your foot in your mouth, and it's okay. It's funny. Laugh about it and move on, okay? I like this quote. I'll read this to you. Making mistakes in language learning is not only necessary, it's a good sign. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough to use the language. All right, so we call this the effective filter. Now, a filter is something that prevents particles from getting into your air system, right? Your effective filter is in your brain, and it's the little voice that says, I don't want to say this aloud, I'm going to sound stupid. We need to lower that filter so that you don't worry about sounding stupid, because that's the only time you're going to learn. All right, and everybody, all business people agree with me. Any success story tells you don't be afraid to make mistakes. Here's one of the 8-time world memory champions giving advice. I love this advice. Now, remember, I told you that they're all buddies with each other. Okay, so there's a girl, a woman who's competing. There's my phone ringing. There's a woman who's competing against him, but they're buddies. They're not really competitive with each other. And she says, I don't know what to do because, you know, I can only memorize 10 decks in 6 minutes. And no matter how much I try, no matter how much I practice, can't get my speed any faster. So he asks her, How many mistakes are you making? She says, none. I told you I can memorize 10 decks in 6 minutes, but I'm topped off there. I can't get any better. And he says, that's your problem. You have to make mistakes to learn. Your brain isn't growing unless you're making mistakes. So be prepared for mistakes, and that's okay. And that's why I give infinite chances on every assignment, okay? You didn't do it well, you redo it until it's good. I want you to master things, and it's going to take you more than one, more than two, maybe more than 5 or 6 times to get everything clicking in your head, all right? It's just going to be that way. It's okay. It's part of the learning process. We call this N plus 1. N is the amount of language that you know, and plus 1 is just a little bit more. It's just a little out of your comfort zone. It's just a little bit more than what you know. N plus 20 is overwhelming. You can't learn in that environment. N minus 5 is boring. It's baby talk. So you need to be stretching just a little bit, and I'm going to get you there. Okay? All right, so I know you can do it. I always end with this. I'll let you pause on it and see if you can figure it out. And then this one, okay? This is a learning process for me too this year. I'm going to be doing a lot of experimenting because I know how to teach in the classroom very well. I've written a book that's going to be published at some point. And now I'm writing an addendum to the book about teaching online because teaching online is very, very different. We're in a different environment. I know your brain is working differently. This video has gone on longer than I intended. I know your eyes are probably glazed over sometimes. During the class, we're much more active. So bear with me as I learn alongside you, okay? And I love teaching, and I'm looking forward to teaching you whatever language you signed up for, okay? Hang in there.